Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me share the screen. What we are going to share, what we are going to see in today's lecture, and then we'll go for the derivation. I hope everyone remember what the homework I have given you to find out what is a dot and cross product, what is a geometric interpretation behind dot and cross product. Have you done? What is a projection? Okay. So these things we have seen in the last lecture that how the work done we can write it in the form of T2 minus T1. That is work done is nothing but the it is written as kinetic energy at P2 minus kinetic energy at position P1. Okay. So this thing we have seen in the last lecture. Next, we have seen what gravitational force is nothing but the conservative field of force. And this derivation we have seen that a particle is moving or it is falling from position A to B and under the influence of gravitational force. There is no force in the x direction. There is only force due to its own weight, and hence we have derived that we can see from the expression that the work done is depending upon the initial and final position, but it is not depending upon the path followed. This we have seen in the last lecture, and this one we have seen that work done by the force along any closed path is zero, then the force is said to be conservative. Okay, or in another way, conversely, we can say the conservative force that when a particle moves along a closed path in a conservative field of force, then we can say that the work done is zero. Okay. This completely depending upon the displacement. When we move from particle A to B and again we come back, then we say that there is no displacement. So in the very similar way, here also, if we are working on a closed path, then we can say that the work done is zero under the conservative field of force. Okay, next we have seen the example of a frictional force is not an example of a conservative force. Why this is so? For the example of a bike, we have seen that if the road is rough, we need a more acceleration or the more force to move our bike. That is due to the things that that rough road gives friction, and there is a reverse force, and to overcome that reverse force we are applying the extra force, and that extra force is given by again minus fs, so hence it is not a conservative. Okay, the next theorem tells us that the necessary and sufficient condition for the force to be conservative is that force is equals to minus del v is equals to minus gradient of v is equals to minus del v upon r, del that is dou v upon dou r. Right now, actually, this the theorem is not for your syllabus. Only the statement is there, and if someone wants the proof of this, I have the notes for this. I will share the notes after some time. That is, after two or three theorems we have completed, or after first chapter. If we complete the first chapter, then I will share the notes first chapter, right? Up to now, you must be ready with your own notes, because if I am going to provide you notes, that will be not worthful, no? Because you have to prepare your own notes whenever you are going to attend the lecture. Even we are having the lecture on the YouTube, you have to prepare your rough note, and finally, no doubt, I am going to give the note of notes and even solved example, everything I will provide you after completion of every chapter, right? But up to now, you should be prepared with your own notes, correct? Because it will be your habit, so that you can because at the PG level you should be able to prepare your own notes for, right? So the what is the theorem? This theorem tells us that the necessary and sufficient condition for the force to be conservative is that force can be written as minus del V, or we can say this del, we can say it is minus grad V, or we can say it is minus of dou V by dou R. Right, where R is what? A position vector, and if it is a position vector and if we are discussing in a 3D space, then it must be consisting of x, y and z direction. Right. So before going to anything else, let me go through the first thing. What is a sufficient condition? What do you think about the necessary and sufficient condition? Because I hope many times you have heard this term, necessary and sufficient condition for this, if and only if condition, if then condition. That means if some part is given, then you have to prove that. Okay, these type of things we have seen necessary condition, and in the proof also we are proving like necessary condition part and sufficient part. And if and only if in that we are proving if part and only if part, like this. Right. I hope you have done this, na? Hello. आवाज येते ना माझा?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
हाँ. So have you heard this, na? The necessary and sufficient
Yes, ma'am.
condition somewhere in ESC. So can you explain me, if assuming that I am not knowing what is necessary and sufficient condition, by real life example or whatever you have understood, आपको जो समझ में आया वो बताओ. Then we'll go further now, because if you're not knowing what is necessary sufficient condition, then we'll come to the theorem. Okay. ऐकलेत ना कुठे तुम्ही?
Madam, it is similar to if and only if condition.
Okay, then what is if and only if condition? What we are going to do for that? क्या करते हो आप? एक एग्जाम्पल से समझा सकते हो कि अगर आपके पास कोई थ्योरम है या प्रूफ करना है आपको, तो आप नेसेसरी सफिशिएंट का मीनिंग क्या है? जस्ट लाइक आप सीआर इक्वेशंस को भी बोलते हैं ना, कॉची-रीमन्स इक्वेशन is a necessary or sufficient condition for
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what do you mean by necessary and sufficient? सिर्फ sufficient होना जरूरी नहीं है कि आप सिर्फ sufficient रहा तो भी ओके नहीं है क्या? या फिर necessary होना भी जरूरी है, या फिर only necessary is not good or anything else? Have you understood what I want to ask you? Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Both conditions are important.
So what do you mean by necessary condition? Okay, let us go through the admission procedure. Just now we have taken the admission, no? Suppose in the real life example, that is a real life example that you have come through, no? Okay, what is a necessary condition to take an admission in MSc Mathematics? Because everyone gone through that procedure, no? As you have admitted here.
BSc completed.
No, BSc बहुत से लोगों ने किया है ना, but सभी को admission.
Given entrance exam.
Given an entrance exam is a necessary condition, but this doesn't imply that you will get an admission. Correct ना? अगर आपने entrance दिया है, इसका meaning ये नहीं है कि आपको admission मिलेगा ही. Is it like this?
No, ma'am.
So this is what a necessary condition, that this condition should hold. आपने एंट्रेंस दिया है तभी आपको आप एडमिशन के लिए एलिजिबल है. नो डाउट यू मे बी 0, 1, 2, 3. एक्चुअली आपके टाइम पे कंडीशन नहीं था, बट up to last year there was a condition that you should pass the entrance, then only you will be considered in the merit list, right? Actually there was a condition up to last year that a student having 40 or more than 40, that is a passing criteria for the entrance examination was there. So that is what we are considering. Necessary condition means what? We should give the entrance exam if you want to have an admission in a MSc Mathematics in Solapur University, right? So what will be a sufficient condition if you want to get an admission? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Then what is a sufficient condition? You have admitted here, na? You should know the sufficient condition.
You must have a marks, eligible
You
marks.
must have a marks such that you come in the merit list, right? You must be in the merit list, correct? Either maybe in the first merit list, second merit list, like this. So because you are the merit students now, you may get an admission from the category or anything else, but the main criteria is a merit, correct? So what is a necessary condition? You must give an entrance exam. अगर एंट्रेंस एग्जाम ही नहीं दिया तो ऑब्वियसली यू विल नॉट गेट एन एडमिशन. आफ्टर गिविंग एन एंट्रेंस एग्जाम यू मस्ट बी इन द मेरिट स्टूडेंट, राइट? Okay, have you understood this example?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay, let me give the another example that you have to evaluate, correct? Everyone know about the Vidhan Sabha and Rajya Sabha, everything else. पता है ना सबको?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So actually, I am not going to explain that example. You have to explain me in the next lecture, or you at least have discussion in yourself. Actually, how many? Let me say it is. In Marathi, we call it Khasdar, no? Amdar and Khasdar, we say it is MLA.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So
Yes, ma'am.
actually what we have, there is a condition for them also to be presentee. उनका भी कुछ presentee का consideration होता है ना. This much member should be present in the संसद, right? कोई भी संसद चलाने के लिए वहाँ पे एक पर्टिकुलर क्राइटेरिया है संसद के लिए भी कि वो इतनी अमाउंट में प्रेजेंट होना चाहिए कोई बिल पास करने के लिए, लाइक दिस, राइट? they are also having some criteria that आपको जैसे criteria you must be 75% present if you want to appear for the exam, like this. So they are also having some these type of conditions. Now I am asking you about in which way you are applying the necessary and sufficient condition in Sansad for the presentee of the Khasdar or Amdar. You may consider any one of them, right? So you have to evaluate, you have to think on this, that or in another way, if you are getting this somewhat complicated, you can take any other example, any other real life example in which we can apply the necessary and sufficient condition. Okay. So let us go for the next one. Have you understood the example?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let me go for the next. What is the thing here? F is equals to minus del V grad. Now these things, whatever we are seeing on the screen, that notation of del, notation of a grad, dou V by dou R, these things I hope you are knowing, right? What is a gradient, curl, divergence? Have you studied this term? Gradient, curl, divergence, these type of a term I hope you have heard.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So actually what is the thing we are provided? Necessary and sufficient condition for the force to be conservative is that force can be written in the form of a gradient of some function V, right? This is what a theorem. Actually it is not for our syllabus, but we need this for our for proving our next theorem, right? Those who want the proof of this is available here. Let me go for the proof that we want, right? What is the theorem? What is the statement of the theorem? If the forces acting on the particle are conservative, then show that the total energy of the particle is conserved, right? What is our aim to prove that? The forces acting on the particle are conserved. This is given to us. The forces acting on the particle are conservative, right? That they are constant. Conservative, in short, we can say it is constant. The forces acting on the particle are conservative. Then what we want to show that the total energy of the particle is conserved. Okay, we want to prove total energy of the particle is conserved. What is the meaning of total energy? That is kinetic energy plus potential energy. We want to prove that kinetic energy T plus potential energy V is equal to constant. Okay, total energy of the particle is conserved. Have you understood what is given to us and what is our aim to prove? हो तर म्हणा, नाहीतर म्हणा, काहीतरी म्हणा.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So let us go for the next one. Okay, what is our aim to prove? Now here you can see by the lemma, you can write the statement of lemma. By the necessary sufficient condition for the force to be conservative is that force is expressed in terms of a gradient of some function, right? Minus dou v by dou r. Now let me ask you some questions related to this one. That is, you must know what is gradient, curl, and all these things, so that I can go further, or in another way, I can assume that you are knowing this, right? Na? माहिती है ना सगळ्यांना? What is gradient? What is the formula for gradient and all? Okay. So what we need is firstly we need a gradient. Okay. What is the formula for gradient? Can anyone tell me? Gradient, curl, and divergence. These things I hope you have heard somewhere. Okay, let me write down gradient del phi.
I cap into dou by dou x plus j cap into dou by dou I plus k cap into dou by dou z.
I dou by dou x plus j dou by dou y plus k dou by dou z. What are I, j, k? These are the unit vector in the directions of x, y, and z. This is what a gradient. And what is divergence? That is, we are writing it is del dot v. Correct? V is any vector. So how we write gradient? For that again we have I dou by dou x plus j dou by dou y plus k times dou by dou z. And what is v? V is with v1i. This is also one vector with v1i plus v2j plus v3k. Correct? You have to take a dot product of del with v. Okay. The third thing we have is a curl. How to define a curl? Curl is nothing but del cross v. So how to define this del cross v? If you are having a cross product, I hope you everyone knowing about how to write down the cross product. The first row is ijk. What is the second one? The coefficients of del. That is dou by dou x, dou by dou y, and dou by dou z. Whatever v, if it is having some coefficient, you have to write them. Okay. So first one is I dou by dou x plus j dou by dou y plus k dou by dou z. Del v means v is some vector with v1i, v2j plus v3k. Curl is first row is ijk, second one is coefficient of del, that is dou by dou x, dou by dou y, dou by dou z. And v is whatever the coefficient, whatever we have in v, you have to write down the terms here. Okay, first row, second row, and third row. So this is what a gradient, divergence, and curl. Okay, but what are the geometric interpretations behind the gradient, divergence, and curl? Because all three have been defined with a differently, right? Okay, if they are defined differently, what are the geometric interpretation behind the divergence, gradient, and curl? Okay, so out of all them, I will tell you the first one, that is gradient. Actually, the gradient will give you the greatest rate of increase of a function. Okay, What is a gradient? We have seen just now. It is a formula is I dou by dou x plus j dou by dou y plus k dou by dou z. Right? Now, everyone knowing about a derivative. What is a derivative? We say it is a rate of change. If I am saying dou by dou x, it is rate of change in x direction. If it is dou by dou y, it is rate of y direction. If it is dou by dou z, then it is rate of change in z direction. Correct? Right. So, what is the thing we have in the gradient? It is I times dou by dou x plus j times dou by dou y plus z times plus k times dou by dou z. So, combinedly, the gradient will give you the greatest rate of increase of a function. Just now we have written del phi, that is that function phi. Whenever you are having a function phi, where that function phi is having a greatest rate of increase of a function. Okay. Rate of change, you know, rate of increase of a function. Rate of change is nothing but your derivative. Derivative is nothing but your slope of tangent. Okay. So, in today's lecture, you should have one homework that why the derivative is called a slope of tangent. Okay. First homework is why the derivative is called a slope of tangent, and second homework is why the derivative is called a rate of change. Okay, why the derivative is called a rate of change. For that I will give you some small hint. Y is equal to, suppose you have x square is a simple function, y is equal to x square. What is the derivative y dash? We write it is 2 times x. Correct? So if I am saying y dash is 2 times x, which means that the rate of change is twice. Okay. Now you have to explain me that why the rate of change is twice and how the rate of change is twice, and why the derivative is called a rate of change and why the derivative is called a slope of tangent. Okay. See, if you are going to prepare for those questions, whatever you are going to ask in your lectures, all the 4 faculty lectures, then only you will be able to understand what are the basic things in the mathematics. Correct? I am not saying that we are so much good in knowledge, but still we can say that we know some part from the basic and we are clear about the basic. So, whenever you are going to start your seminar, whenever we are going to give you the seminar topic, in that seminar topic you will not get any difficult topic, just like big theorem and all. We'll give you very small topic, that's like open set, closed set, bounded set. These type of a topic will be given to you. At that time, you have to explain this small thing. Suppose someone from you people will have one seminar topic related to derivative. Then obviously we are going to ask you the question why the derivative is called a slope of tangent, or why derivative is called a rate of change. Okay, at that time you must be able to answer this. Okay, actually seminar will have consist of 3 parts. Actually it is of 25 marks. 10 marks are reserved for report. No doubt that you can prepare very good. Okay, report तो हम easily prepare कर सकते हैं ना. You have to prepare a report and you have to put it on the Google Classroom. And 10 marks are reserved for your presentation. Okay, you are going to create a Google Meet on the Saturday. If you are having a seminar, then you have to present your topic. And 5 marks are reserved for your question answer session. Okay, very simple topic we are going to provide so that your basic knowledge about the mathematics should be clear. Okay, so in today's lecture you have a homework by this. So for that I will give you the one hint also. You have to search about a Khan Academy. Have you heard Khan Academy? एकता इतना वाला. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
हाँ, खान अकेडमी किसी ने सुना है? खान अकेडमी एक YouTube चैनल है. Actually, it has an app also. Go to the YouTube.
Yes, ma'am.
Search a Khan Academy. Then you can see the in detail description about the derivative, slope of tangent, rate of change with example. Okay. So be prepare with all these things because you have to appear for the seminar. Okay, so I told you the geometric interpretation behind the gradient, and one real life example of a gradient is suppose आप अगर केक बना रहे हो ओवन में, right? Many people say that there is no real life application of mathematics. So we have an application of gradient, that is अगर आप ओवन में कोई केक का जो डफ होता है ना, पीट बोलते हो ना, so actually we are going केक आप एक पैन में रखते हो ना ओवन में, राइट? सो एट दैट टाइम व्हाट यू डू, आप ओवन स्टार्ट करते हो, राइट? आफ्टर नियर अबाउट 40 minutes or 30 minutes if you open, you must be prepared with the cake. Okay, have you understood this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so whenever you take that cake outside, what you see is आपने जितना उसका मेजर वॉल्यूम दिया था उससे वो इंक्रीज होता है ना, ऊपर आ जाता है.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So what is my question, why it is coming in upward direction only, why it doesn't go in the downward direction? As due to gravitational field of force it should go in downward direction, no, but it is going in the upward direction. Why? Have you understood my question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, आपने क्या किया है, जो केक बनाने का जो पीठ होता है ना, आप एक पैन में रखते हो, करेक्ट? As many of you know or don't, I don't know, बट लॉकडाउन में एटलीस्ट किसी ने ट्राई तो किया होगा, तो उसमें थोड़ा सा पार्ट रखते हैं ना वो पैन में, सो दैट वो जब फूकता है तो ऊपर आ जाता है, राइट? सो भाई ओवन में वो ऊपर ही क्यों आता है? We go downward now. Anywhere
It have no space at downward direction.
but it can go in any other direction also, no? इधर भी जा सकता है, इधर भी जा सकता है, ऊपर ही क्यों? So actually here we are using that greatest rate of increase of a heat. सबसे ज्यादा हीट जहाँ पे होगा वो वहीं पे increase होता है actually. So here we are using the concept of a gradient, that is greatest rate of increase of a function. And here what is our function? Heat. That is greatest rate of increase of a heat. अगर जहाँ पे heat सबसे ज्यादा होता है वहीं पे वो increase होता है, so that you can be prepared with your cake or ढोकला or anything else. So we are having the things that जहाँ पे heat सबसे ज्यादा होगा, because if we are putting something in the oven, so obviously in the upper area you have a heat. Right, greatest rate of increase of a heat. So in that direction it is going. Okay, so in this way you have to go through the real life example of a curl and divergence. What are the geometric interpretation behind the curl and the divergence? Okay, so let us go for our theorem, our syllabus. That we have to prove that if the forces acting on the particle are conservative, then show that the total energy of the particle is conserved. For that, we need one theorem that we have studied just now. F is equals to minus del V, that is nothing but minus of dou V by dou R. R is a position vector. Okay, R is a position vector. So, what you have to do is, now work done, how the work done is given by, work done is nothing but from position R1 to R2, that is position vector at a point P1 and position vector at a point P2, F into dm. Right? Work done is nothing but force into displacement. And displacement is from position R1 to R2 or P1 to P2. These are the position vector at P1, position vector at P2, that is nothing but R1 and R2. Okay. Position vectors at R1 and R2. Right. So we have to just put up this F is equals to minus dou V by dou R. Or we may write it is integration R1 to R2 F is minus minus del V dr. Correct? What is del V now? We have to write down the formula for del V, as well as we have to write down the formula for dr. So what is R? R is nothing but position vector of a particle, that we write it as xi yj plus zk. Right? So what will be dr? Can anyone tell me what is dr if R is xi plus yj plus zk? Ijk are unit vector. So what is dr? Dr is nothing but x dot I plus y dot j plus k. Derivative, no? Just like a derivative. R is xi plus yj plus zk. So what is dr? X dot I plus y dot j plus z dot k. So what is del V? We have written just now what is del V. It is nothing but I dou v dou by dou x plus j times dou by dou y plus k times dou by dou z. Okay, into V. What is V here? V is any vector V is given to us, that is del into some V. So let me write down that V. So I will write down directly I times dou V by dou x, j times dou V by dou y and k times dou V by dou z. Right. So we are ready with these terms. So let me put here integration R1 to R2. What is del V? It is here with a negative sign I dou by dou x. So j times dou V by dou y plus k times dou V by dou z into dr is nothing but x dot I, that is derivative y dot j plus z dot k. Correct? Integration of these two. Now we have to find out what is the multiplication of these two. What instead of writing this x dot, we can write it as dr is equal to dxi plus dyj plus dzk also. If you are confusing with the term, you can write like this also. Let me write down here as it is itself, dxi plus dyj plus dzk term dr. Now you have to multiply this. Now as you know, what is I dot I? 1. What is
1.
j? 1. K dot k is 1. All other are 0. I dot j will be 0 because I and j are the unit vector along x and y direction. What is the dot product of x and y? Obviously the angle between them is 90 degree. Cos 90 is 0. So what is I dot j? It is nothing but mod I mod j into cos of angle between I and j. What are I and j? These are unit vector in x and y direction. So cos 90. What is cos 90? It is 0. Similarly, we can have j dot k, I dot k and all others are 0. So after evaluating this term, we can write directly it is as negative sign outside minus R1 to R2. So let me write down directly this as dou V by dou x dx plus dou V by dou y dy plus dou V by dou z dz. Right. So what is this? Can anyone tell me what is this dou V by dou x dx plus dou V by dou y dy plus dou V by dou z dz? Somewhere in your BSc you have solved a total derivative questions. df is equal to dou f by dou x dx plus dou f by dou y dy plus dou f by dou z dz. Solve के लिए इतना minus R1 to R2. What is this? You can write it as total derivative dv is equals to dou v by dou x dx plus dou v by dou y dy plus dou v by dou z dz. So that is nothing but dv. What is we have here? It is nothing but del v. Sorry. Here we have the work done is equals to. So what is the integration of dv? We can write it as minus capital V within R1 to R2. Now what is this? V up to now I haven't told you what is this V. So this is nothing but your potential energy or potential function. So we can write What is an integration of dx? We write it is x. So here in the very similar way, integration of dv is v. So work done, we can write it is minus of capital V R1 to R2. But now we cannot write the upper limit minus lower limit, right? So can you write it is R2 minus R1? Because it is not necessary, no? Actually here it is potential energy, and here these are the position vector at P1 and P2. So hence we can write it is nothing but V2 minus V1. Again there is a minus sign also outside, so we can write it is V1 minus V2. Okay. So what we get, the formula for work done is nothing but P1 minus, right? So here we have, it is nothing but the potential energy at a position P2, potential energy at a position P1. R1, R2 are the position vector. So hence, initially we have got a formula work done is equals to T2 minus T1 in the last lecture. Okay. So combining those formula which we have obtained in the last lecture and today's lecture, we can have work done is equals to T2 minus T1, and in the today's lecture we obtained is V1 minus V2. We can write V1 minus V2 is equals to T2 minus T1. And hence we can write it is V1 plus T1. This minus T1 here and T2, and this minus V2 we can take here as V2. So combinedly we can get it is T1 V1 is equals T1 plus V1 is equals to T2 plus V2. What is T? Kinetic energy. What is capital V? It is potential energy. What is the formula for potential energy? mgh. M is a mass, g is acceleration, h is a height. Okay. So finally we get T1 plus V1 is equals to T2 plus V2. Okay. Which means that the total energy at a position 1, that is T1 plus V1, and total energy at a position 2 are equal. And in this way we can prove this is equal to T3 plus T3 and so on is equal to Tn plus Vn. Which means that total energy at position 1 is exactly equal to total energy at a position 2. And this you can conclude from the one statement that we have, the energy neither be created nor be destroyed. It can be converted from one form to another form, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So here we get total energy T1 plus V1 is equals to T2 plus V2. In this case we have proved for only two positions from P1 to P2. Okay. Now let me share the screen for that, and then we'll go for the next thing. So here we have F is equals to minus del V. So work done by the force in displacing a particle from position P1 to P2 with some fixed point is given by R1, R2. That is, these are the position vector, right? From origin to R1, origin to R2. That is nothing but our position vector of a particle at a position P1 and P2. And hence, just now whatever we have done, I am showing you work done is nothing but force into displacement, and then displacement is from position P1 to P2, right? What is R1, R2? These are nothing but the position vector, and these are find out with the help of some fixed point, correct? Just in the last lectures, I have told you how to find out the distance. If we are considering the stand as a origin, then we can find out the distance from the stand. Right. So here also we have some fixed point. That fixed point we can call it as a origin. And I have told you that we can find out the origin at any place. Correct, na?
Yes, madam.
So actually we can find out the origin at any point in the space. So with the help of that we have found R1. From some fixed point we have calculated position P1 and P2 that are named as R1 and R2. Okay, just now we have written the formula for R. What is R? R is nothing but xi plus yj plus zk. These are the position vector of a particle in general. Okay, dr is nothing but dxi plus dyj plus dzk, or dot I plus y dot j plus z dot k. Next, we can have the what is del v. The formula for del I have written just now on the board. So just we have to write down the del v, and the multiplication of these two we have got it as I dot I will be 1, j dot j is 1, k dot k is 1. All others are 0. Okay, so hence after writing this, what is this? This whole term, whatever we are seeing here, it is just like a total derivative. Dou v by dou x dx plus dou v by dou y dy plus dou v by dou z dz. That is just like a dv. And hence, what is the integration of dx? It is x. In the very similar way, integration of dv is capital V. Now, V is a potential energy at a position, some position we are finding. So here R1, R2 are the position vectors at a point P1 and P2. So hence don't write it is R2 minus R1, it is V2 minus V1. In the exam also many students doing this mistake. So work done we have obtained it is V1 minus V2. In the last lecture we have obtained work done is T2 minus T1, that is kinetic energy at a position P2 and kinetic energy at a position P1. And finally we are getting them equal. So work done is equal to T2 minus T1 is equals to the last formula we have obtained V1 minus V2. So after rearranging the term, we get T2 plus V2 is equals to T1 plus V1. So total energy at a position P2 and total energy at P1 is constant, and hence we can say T plus V is a constant. Okay. The next thing we are going to see is mechanics of the system of a particle. Right. Is there any doubt for the last theorem? We have proved total energy of the particle at any position is constant. Okay, if you are not having a doubt, let me go. Consider a system of n particles whose masses are m1, m2, m3 up to mn, whose position vector with respect to some fixed point. What is that fixed point? It may be n origin. It is r1, r2 and r3 up to rn. Okay. What is given to us? Linear momentum and equation of a motion. In this case, any system of particle will experience two types of forces. What are the two types of forces? Internal as well as external forces. Okay. Again, we'll take an example of a bike. If you're traveling, there are some forces which are, suppose some अगर ज़्यादा हवा छूट गया तो obviously your bike will be moving somewhere. It is not completely, it will be falling. It may have some speed of a bike may be reducing. That is called a external forces. Internal force means what? That is nothing but your acceleration of your bike. Okay. So there are two types of forces acting on any type of a particle, that is external force as well as internal force. Okay. To find out the total force acting on a particle, we can write it is Fie denote external forces. Fi, and here it is E, and that is nothing but the external force acting on a ith particle of the system. How many particles we have? N number of particle. Out of n number of particle, we have the force acting on every particle is external as well as internal. That is Fji internal force. That is the internal force acting on ith particle due to the presence of jth particle. Correct. Just like in the classroom, if you are having two friends, then you have the consideration. If she comes, then I will come, or if he comes, then I will come. This type of a thing. right? Now, sometimes happens with you people that if my friend is going to college, then I will go, otherwise I will also take a leave. In a very similar way, FJI means what? The internal force acting on ith particle due to the presence of jth particle. Okay, some internal forces are also existing in the particle. Okay, that is nothing but the FJI internal. Okay, thus the total internal force acting on the ith particle due to the presence of remaining n minus 1 particle, because actually we have total number of n particle and remaining n minus 1 particle is given by summation over j FJI internal. Summation j runs from 1 to n minus 1. And we can write it is plus 1 also, because the force acting on particle by itself, that also we can consider. Force acting on a particle by itself, that may be 0 or something else. So hence we can consider that the total force acting on the particle can be written as this. I am asking only about the ith particle. Fi can be written as Fie plus summation over j runs from 1 to n FJI internal. Okay, that is the force acting on ith particle due to presence of jth particle, that I can write F1j, F11, F12, F13 and so on. Okay, suppose we are having n number of particles. Thus the total force can be written as summation over I Fi. That is, we are having Fi is a force acting on single particle. Then summation of this will give you the force acting on the whole system. Okay, the system consisting of n particles. Hence summation will run from 1 to n. And then after writing this, force can be written as summation over I Fi external plus summation over I as well as j Fji. What is Fij Fji? It is nothing but the mutual interaction between the particle. Just like to every action there is a equal and opposite reaction. That is a Newton's third law. We know about this, that to every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. So from the this equation number 1, second term Fji internal is exactly equal to minus of Fij internal. Like this, that force acting on ith particle due to presence of jth is exactly equal and opposite to force acting on jth particle due to the presence of ith particle. Correct, na? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So
Yes,
Fj internal is equal to minus of Fij. We that force acting on ith particle due to presence of jth particle is exactly equal to minus of Fij. That is force acting on jth particle due to the presence of ith particle. So there is no self interacting force, that is force acting on a particle due to itself, that is Fjj is equals to 0. So after adding this, we can have the equation Fjj is 0. So we can have summation over I Fi external. Okay. So you can have here, after writing this equation, we have F11, obviously it is 0, F21, and somewhere we can have F12. F21 and F12 both are equal and opposite, right? So they may get cancel. After cancelling all those terms, we are remaining with only external force, that is a force F. The equation F, we have equation number 1, summation over I Fie plus summation over Ij Fji internal. Okay. What will happen for this term? This term is eliminated because Fjj is 0, because force acting on itself by itself is 0, and force acting on due to ith particle, force acting on ith particle due to presence of jth particle, that we can eliminate with the help of this equation. The Newton's third law of motion tells us that every reaction there is equal and opposite reaction. Okay, to every action there is equal and opposite reaction. So here, after writing this in the form of the big equation, you have to evaluate this summation. So first term will be F11, second term is F21, third term is F31 and so on. Next, we have to keep the second term. That is, we are getting here as a F12, F22, F33 and so on. So we are going to eliminate all those terms, and the equation 1 becomes F is equals to the total force acting on the system is due to only external force. As we know that the equation of a motion is in terms of momentum, so we can write force is equals to P bar dot, that is d T by dt. Okay. So hence external forces are 0. If force is 0, obviously external force will be 0. So hence P bar dot is 0, hence P is a constant. The principle of conservation of a linear momentum. This we have already seen for a single particle. I hope you remember. For the single particle we have seen this here, principle of conservation of a linear momentum. In the absence of force, the linear momentum is conserved. This we have written only for a single particle, but here we have generalized as a concept that if we are having system of n particle, then also if the force is absent, then linear momentum is conserved. Okay. Should I repeat this? Okay, let me go through the things. We have system of n particle. Out of system of n particle, we have their masses as m1, m2 up to mn with a position vector r1, r2 up to rn. Okay, so in this any type of a system, we have two type of forces. That is, one is external, another one is internal. So now we have to write down what is a force acting on a ith particle. That is due to external force as well as due to internal. That is, Fji is a force acting on ith particle due to the presence of jth particle. And combining all this, because this is happening with the set of n particle. So due to remaining n minus 1 particle, we can write it is Fji internal. Okay. That I can write up to n minus 1 also, up to n also, because force acting on particle due to itself is 0. And hence, the total force acting on ith particle, we can write is FIE, that is force acting on ith particle due to external force, and this is internal. And hence, we can write the total force acting on a particle is summation over I Fi. That is how many particles we have, that amount of force we will be creating. And then afterwards, what we have to do, we have to evaluate the second term from this equation 1. That we can evaluate this summation, and hence we can get the linear momentum is conserved in the case of a force is absent. Force is absent means what? The external force is absent. Okay. If you are having still doubt, you can ask. No doubt. आवाज येत नाही का माझा?
येतोय.
Hello. Okay, if you are having, check this lecture on the YouTube itself. Repeating this, you can come to the consideration, because I also know that you are not much familiar with these concept of physics. Okay, this may be somewhat boring for you, but you have to go through this. You have to clear this paper. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Lecture. Okay, let me end the lecture. Thank you.